be silent anymore. I've been knocking at my door.
Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, usually when we sit down at these microphones, I've got this stack of papers in front of me about, I don't know, supply chain logistics
Or the psychology of habit formation.
exactly, or some new tech trend. We're usually very head-focused.
Yeah.
We like to optimize things.
You do. We like systems. We like logic. We like things we can, measure and put into a spreadsheet.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the stack you brought today, it feels heavier, but in a totally different way. It's not dense with data. It's dense with emotion. It feels a little more intimate. Honestly, looking at the source material, it feels like we're stepping into someone's living room, not a lecture hall.
It is. It is a shifting gears. Today we are pivoting. We're moving from the head to the heart, or maybe even deeper to the bones.
The bones. Okay, that is a specific image.
It is. We're looking at a devotional source today. It's titled The Uncontainable Fire, A Journey of Surrender. And specifically, we're really zooming in on day 5 of this journey.
And this day, it goes with a song called Fire in My Bones. And just to orient everyone listening, because this is a bit of a different format. This isn't just, a standalone article we found. It's got some layers to it.
Right. It's part of a larger ecosystem called Redeemer of My Story. The whole concept is really interesting. It takes an album of music and then pairs each song with a structured 5-day devotional experience.
So you have the audio, the lyrics, and then this written guide that breaks it all down.
Yeah, and there's even a devotional companion guide for people who really want to journal through it. So it's multimedia, it's meant to be read, heard, and well felt.
So our mission today isn't to solve some productivity puzzle or hack our morning routine. It's to explore a very human condition. We're talking about that feeling when you have something inside you, a truth, a calling, a conviction, and you try to keep it quiet.
And more importantly, the sheer exhaustion that comes from that silence. We're exploring this idea of unavoidable obedience.
Unavoidable obedience. I have to say, when I first read that phrase in the notes, I bristled a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Well, unavoidable just sounds forced. It sounds like I'm being coerced against my will. And obedience, I mean, that's not exactly a popular word today. We like autonomy. We like options.
Sure.
Unavoidable obedience just sounds like I'm losing my agency.
And that is a completely fair reaction. But that is exactly why this is so fascinating. The source material kind of flips those definitions on their head.
Okay.
We're going to see that this isn't about being forced by some external hand. It's about reaching a point where the alternative, staying silent, is actually more painful than speaking up. It's like the physics of the soul.
The physics of the soul. Okay, I like that better. So let's start at the foundation. The source material anchors this whole discussion in a very specific, very old piece of text.
Jeremiah 20.9. It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And to really get the song Fire in My Bones, you have to understand the guy who originally said it.
Jeremiah. Now, I'm not a theology scholar, but reading through the context provided here, this guy was not exactly having a great time when he wrote this.
No, absolutely not. Jeremiah is often called the weeping prophet. He wasn't speaking to a stadium of cheering fans. He was being mocked for his message. He was isolated.
A downer, basically.
He was considered a total downer. So logically, he makes a very rational decision. He decides to quit.
Which makes sense. If I'm doing a job and everyone hates me for it, I'm putting in my 2 weeks' notice.
Exactly. It's just self-preservation.
I want to read the specific quote from the source because it captures this internal negotiation so perfectly. It says, "Then I said, I will not make mention of him, nor speak any more in his name."
Just stop there for a second. That is a resignation letter. That is him saying, I am done. The social cost is too high. I'm just going to zip my lip, keep my head down, and be normal.
It's a defense mechanism, and we've all done this. You're in a meeting or a relationship or even just at a dinner party, and you realize your opinion is the unpopular one. So you think, okay, I'll just stay small. If I stay small, I stay safe.
Precisely. If I don't rock the boat, nobody can throw me overboard. But look at what happens next in the text. He tries to quit, but
his word was in my heart like a burning fire, shut up in my bones. I was weary of holding it back, and I could not.
Shut up in my bones.
It's such visceral imagery. Not in his mind, not in his thoughts, in his bones.
The source really zeroes in on this physical containment. It's not just an idea he can't stop thinking about. It's a pressure he can't stop feeling. But the word that this deep dive focuses on, and I think this is the key to the whole thing, is the word weary.
I was weary of holding it back.
Think about that paradox. Usually we associate weariness with exertion. You're weary because you ran a marathon or worked a double shift.
Right, you're tired from doing something.
But here, Jeremiah is tired from not doing. The weariness comes from the act of suppression.
That's actually deeply relatable.
It is, isn't it?
It reminds me of trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You're in the pool, you push the ball down. You could do it for a minute, maybe 5 minutes. But your arms start shaking. The energy it takes to keep it submerged is actually way more than the energy it would take to just let it pop up.
That is the perfect analogy. The source describes this as a hydraulic pressure of truth. The text says the author tried to stay quiet. There was an active effort to minimize herself, but the truth kept rising.
And I think that's where the unavoidable part really clicks. It's not that God is forcing you like a puppet master. It's that the pressure inside just exceeds the strength of the container.
Right. You hit a breaking point, the text says, and I could not.
It's not, I decided not to, it's I could not.
It's a capability issue. You literally run out of the strength required to lie to yourself or to the world.
And the source makes a really important distinction here about motivation. Because when we hear about people speaking their truth or being loud about their faith, we can sometimes interpret that as ego.
Right. Look at me. Look how holy I am. Look how passionate I am.
Exactly. Like and subscribe to my holiness. But the source says that wasn't the case here at all. The author wasn't saying, hey, listen to my song, read my words, validate me.
No, it was a release valve. It was an inability to contain the reality of God any longer. It wasn't a performance. It was a desperate necessity.
Okay, so we've established the pressure. We've established the weariness of holding it back. Now I want to talk about the fire itself. Because fire in my bones sounds cool in a song. It makes for a great t-shirt. But fire is, well, it's destructive.
It is. It's dangerous.
If I told you I had fire in my house, you'd call 911.
Yeah.
So how does the source reconcile this? Is this a dangerous fire? Because I might be thinking, I don't want fire in my bones. That sounds painful.
That's a valid fear. But the source gives us a very nuanced definition. It starts by saying God's fire doesn't exist for excitement alone.
Which is a great check. Because I think in spiritual circles or even motivational circles, people chase the hype. They want the goosebumps, the emotional high.
Exactly, the adrenaline rush. But the source says this isn't about the thrill. If you're just looking for a dopamine hit, this isn't it. The text lists 3 specific purposes for this fire. And if you're listening and wondering, is this thing I'm feeling a genuine calling or just, emotional indigestion? These 3 markers are a great filter.
Okay, lay them on me.
The purposes are action, testimony, and transformation.
Let's break those down. Action.
Action means it compels movement. It's kinetic. You can't just sit on the couch with this fire. It pushes you to do something. If you feel a stirring, but you're content to just think about it forever, it might not be this kind of fire. This fire burns a hole in the couch.
Okay, so it has to manifest in the real world. What about testimony?
It demands to be spoken. It has to move from internal to external. It's that I could not stay silent part. It's sharing the reality of what you've experienced.
And transformation. This feels like the big one.
This is the most critical one. It changes the vessel it's stored in. And this gets back to that fear you mentioned, that fire is destructive. The source has this beautiful line. This fire isn't reckless, it's refining.
Refining. That changes the visual completely.
Yes, it does. A reckless fire is a wildfire. It burns down the whole forest indiscriminately. It leaves nothing but ash. A refining fire? That's a kiln. Or a forge.
It's controlled. It has a purpose.
Think about a goldsmith or a blacksmith. They use fire to burn off the impurities, the dross. It's hot, yes. It might even be painful because it requires change. But the goal isn't destruction. The goal is purification. The source says it doesn't consume you, it forms you.
Wow. It doesn't burn you up. It sustains you.
Think about the burning bush in Exodus. It was on fire, but it wasn't consumed. That's the image here. It's a sustainable energy source.
The source also quotes a lyric from the song that I circled like 3 times. It says, your fire is my fight.
Yes, your fire is my fight.
Talk to me about that, because usually we fight fire.
Yeah.
We call firefighters. We fight against it.
But here the preposition changes everything. You aren't fighting against the fire. The fire is the weapon you are fighting with. It's the energy source. It's the fuel for the battle.
So if we go back to that burnout idea, if I'm exhausted, if I feel like I'm losing the fight, maybe it's not because I'm fighting too hard. Maybe it's because I'm cut off from my fuel source.
Bingo. If the fire is what sustains you, and you are busy dampening it because you want to stay safe or fit in, You are essentially unplugging yourself from the power grid. No wonder you're tired. You're running on battery power when you could be plugged into a generator.
That is a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
And it leads us right into the mechanism of how we actually deal with this. Because if the fire is good and it sustains us, why is it so hard to just let it burn? Why do we resist?
Well, the source touches on this when it discusses obedience, and this was the part that really challenged my own definitions.
The whole surrender versus effort dynamic.
Right. The text says, obedience is less about effort and more about surrender.
Less about effort, more about surrender. Let's be honest, that sounds too easy. Like, isn't obedience supposed to be hard work, gritting your teeth, doing the chores you don't want to do?
That's how we're trained, right? We think of obedience as striving, white-knuckling it. I really want to do this other thing, but I'm going to use all my willpower to force myself to do the good thing.
It's a test of strength.
But the text suggests it's actually a yielding. It's not about generating the power to do the right thing. It's about stopping the resistance against the power that's already there.
So back to our analogy, it's not about blowing air into the beach ball to make it float. It's about stopping the effort of holding it underwater.
Exactly. If you just let go, the ball shoots to the surface. That's physics. The spiritual physics are similar. The truth wants to surface. Your job isn't to force it up. Your job is to stop holding it down.
So it's the difference between rowing a boat upstream, which is all effort, and just lifting the oars and letting the current take you.
That is the perfect image for surrender. Lifting the oars. And the source validates this with the author's own experience. When she finally stopped ignoring what God was asking, what was the result?
It says it gave them peace.
Peace.
Not exhaustion, not fame, peace.
And that brings us right back to the equation we started with. Holding it in equals weariness. Letting it out, even if it's scary, even if people look at you funny, even if it changes your whole life, plan equals peace.
I love the humility in the source text, too. The author clarifies her motivation. She says, not because I have it all figured out.
That's so crucial. I think a lot of listeners might be thinking, well, I can't speak up or act on this calling because I'm not an expert yet. I'm not perfect. I still have doubts.
I'm a mess, so I can't be a messenger.
Right. But the author flips that. She says, I'm speaking up because I know he is faithful to lead where he ignites.
That's a great line. Faithful to lead where he ignites.
It shifts the burden of competence off of you and onto the originator of the fire. You don't have to be the navigator. You just have to be the vessel. You don't have to provide the fuel. You just have to provide the fireplace.
And this is really captured in the chorus of the song. The declaration is so absolute. I won't run. I won't hide.
It feels like a resolution, doesn't it? It's the end of the negotiation. Jeremiah tried to negotiate. He tried to quit. But eventually he realized, I can't run from this.
So let's say a listener's nodding along. They feel the heat. They stop running. They let the fire burn. What actually changes? Does their life just go back to normal?
No, absolutely not. The source gets very practical here. It's not just some internal fuzzy feeling. It says when this truth takes root, it changes 3 specific areas of your life.
Which are?
How you speak, how you live, and how you respond to the world.
Those are pretty all-encompassing categories.
They are. How you speak, that's your output, your words. Are they cynical? Are they fearful? Or are they on fire? Do you speak with authority or apology?
How you live, that's your habits, your daily actions.
Right. If you have a fire in your bones, you probably aren't wasting as much time on trivial things. You have a direction. And how you respond to the world, that's your temperament, your reaction to stress, to bad news, to culture.
It implies that you can't compartmentalize this. You can't have fire in your bones on Sunday morning and then be completely unaffected by it during a Tuesday afternoon strategy meeting.
Exactly. If it's in your bones, it walks with you everywhere. Bones hold up the whole body. You can't leave your femur at home because it's inconvenient.
No, generally not advisable to leave the femur at home.
So if this fire is real, it's going to show up in your parenting. It's going to show up in your creative work. It's going to show up in how you treat the barista. It integrates your entire life.
This brings us to the part of the deep dive where we had to turn the chair around and look at the listener. Because the source asks a very direct question, and I want to ask it to you, listening right now.
It's a probing question.
The text asks, what has God been stirring in you that you've been hesitant to act on?
I love the precision of that question. Notice that word, hesitant.
Yeah.
The source assumes you probably already know what it is. It's not asking what might God be stirring. It's asking about the thing you are already hesitating on, the thing you are already weary of holding back.
It's uncomfortable.
It is, because hesitation implies knowledge. You know what you're supposed to do, but you're stalled. You're holding the beach ball.
Maybe it's a conversation you need to have to repair a relationship, but you're afraid of the conflict. Maybe it's a creative project, a book, a song, a business that you've been sitting on because you're afraid it's not good enough.
Maybe it's a change in your career, a way you serve your community. Whatever it is, the source creates a sense of urgency around it. It says, ask him today what obedience looks like, not someday, but now.
Not someday, but now.
Ah.
That just cuts through the procrastination. We love someday. Someday is safe. Someday doesn't require anything from me right this second. Someday is a fantasy.
Someday allows us to keep holding the beach ball underwater just a little bit longer. But remember, the core scripture, holding it in is what makes us weary.
So sticking with someday is actually a recipe for exhaustion.
It is. The longer you wait, the more tired you get. The fire doesn't go out, it just gets heavier to carry if you don't let it burn.
You know, as we wrap this up, I'm realizing that this deep dive has been a bit of a paradox. We started talking about fire, which sounds intense and demanding, but we're ending by talking about rest.
That's the beauty of it. The world tells you that to find peace, you need to do less. You need to retreat. You need to care less, detach.
But this source says the opposite.
Right. It says that true peace, the kind that settles in your bones, doesn't come from emptiness. It comes from release. It comes from letting the thing that is inside you out. It comes from alignment.
I won't run, I won't hide.
Simple words, hard to live, but simple to say.
If this conversation has stirred something in you, if you're identifying that hesitation we talked about, the source material suggests you don't have to do this alone.
Right. The song Fire in My Bones is available wherever you stream music. And honestly, music does something that spoken word can't sometimes. It bypasses the logic centers and goes straight to the emotion. It gives you a language for the feeling.
And as we mentioned at the top, there is the Redeemer of My Story devotional and companion guide. The source mentions you can do it by yourself or with a group of friends. And frankly, having friends around when you're dealing with uncontainable fire seems like a good safety tip.
A fire crew, if you will.
Exactly. Accountability helps. You need people who can look at you and say, hey, stop holding that beach ball down. Just let it go.
It does. We were made for community, especially in the fire.
So here's the final thought we want to leave you with. We've talked about the cost of obedience. What will happen if I speak up? Will I look foolish? Will I lose my standing? Those are real fears.
But I want you to flip the ledger.
How so?
We rarely count the cost of disobedience. We rarely count the cost of silence. The source says this fire is meant to sustain you. So consider this. Is it possible that the burnout you are feeling isn't because you are doing too much, but because you are suppressing the very thing that was meant to light your way?
That is a heavy question. If you're blocking the fire, you're blocking the fuel.
Exactly.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It was a bit more from the heart today, but I think that's exactly where we needed to be.
Absolutely. It's good to check in on the bones every now and then.
Take care of that fire.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.
It burns like holy fire.